uh, I mean, I think a lot of people are told like networking is the best way to get a job. And a lot of people still don't know quite how to leverage their network. And Cristina has actually gotten a bunch of different jobs in a bunch of different areas through networking. So anyway, thanks for joining me
Yeah.
today. And
Yeah.
why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about why this topic is important to you?
Yeah, 100%. Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be here. Hi, HireClub community. This is my debut. So again, my name is Cristina Costa. I'm a career coach, specifically working with BIPOC job seekers who are looking to transition in their careers and mainly transition into tech. So that's where my background is in working in the tech sector since 2014 now, which is kind of crazy. And so this topic, networking, so my slogan, one of my slogans is your network is your net worth. And I absolutely say that and I believe and I stand by it, in everything that I do, because at the end of the day, my last job, just so you all know, I was working at Google as a recruiter. And working back in the back end, seeing how the hiring processes are, seeing who gets in the door and who doesn't, you really start realizing that people hire who they know and people hire who they like, right? And even though you can have the most amazing resume and your LinkedIn can be perfect and you can have all these things going for you, but if you don't have someone there on the inside referring you or advocating for you or really pushing for you throughout the interview process and the hiring process, I mean, that just makes it so much easier to get into a role. And so I work with clients, a lot of my clients want to talk about their resume or they want to talk about, how do I have the perfect interview? And I think that's all super important. But even into getting into the front door, even getting
Mhm.
the access to have an interview, you have to be networking. That is really the key to navigating different industries, to getting different types of roles, to being included in different types of projects, to building your brand, to just even knowing what opportunities are out there, because a lot of people think the roles they see on LinkedIn or Indeed are all the roles that are available, but the reality is, and Diantha,
Yeah, like the
70% of
hidden
roles
job
are
market.
never even posted. Right. So people are fighting for the 30% that are posted, but actually the best way to get to that 70% that no one's accessing is through networking. Right. So for me, it's the key to success in any capacity. Right. For me, that's my belief.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's especially true for like companies like Google. I mean, they're big, there's a lot of competition. I haven't actually looked to see how many people have applied to open roles at Google recently, but I know whenever I like take a peek, it's always like hundreds of people. And
Yes.
that's a lot of competition for the
So
roles that
much.
are posted.
So
And
much.
yeah, it's so much easier though when you have somebody who's already at the company, they already have established trust and know the inner workings. And if they can vouch for you, it's a great way to get your foot in the door. So
100%.
I
100%.
was wondering if you could share a little bit about some of your experiences with regards to
Yeah.
this process.
Yeah. You mean in terms of how to utilize your network to navigate the
Sure. Well,
job?
even specifically about like, because you don't have a background in tech, right? And you and I have talked about this a little
Yeah,
bit.
no.
And
So
you
I
worked
navigated.
in tech.
Yeah, I'll even share the story. So before I even got into tech, and yes, you were right. I never studied engineering. I wasn't, I didn't know about Google and all these places before, like in college. Like I didn't know about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm a marketing communications major, like a Latin American studies minor, like nothing to do with technology. So essentially, the way I even broke into tech was through networking. So in undergrad, I had done a lot of internships in marketing and advertising because that's kind of what I was studying. And I kept in contact with a lot of the organizations and people that I met, at these different jobs and internships that I had. And so I actually had an internship in college at the Boston Globe, which
Oh,
is a
nice.
publication company, and I was a marketing intern there. And during my time there, I had a really great colleague, and we stayed in touch. And she actually ended up working at PayPal, and I was working in actually higher education. I was an international student advisor, working at Northeastern University. And at the time, I was just not really happy with my job, really unhappy with the pay.
Yeah.
I was also doing my MBA, working full time, barely had enough to make it, through rent and all the things that I needed. And I realized, during that process, actually through networking with my students. So my international students were majority from India and China, and they were all engineering majors. They were all like information systems, computer science, engineers. They actually opened my world up to the tech sector. I knew nothing about it until they all started telling me, oh, I'm getting a job at Google. I'm making like 150K. And I was like, what? Or I'm getting hired at Facebook and I'm making X amount of money, or I'm going to LinkedIn, or I'm going to all these places. And I was like, wait, what is this? And they were like, yeah, it's tech. And I was like, how do I do that? Like, how do I get in there? Because I want to pay my bills. And really, Diantha, like through meeting these students, networking and learning about their backgrounds, and them just really exposing me to this whole new world, I actually decided I wanted to make that transition. So what I did, I started seeing, which of my friends maybe were working at these types of tech companies. And it just so happened I was on Facebook, and the woman I told you that I worked with at the Boston Globe had just posted on Facebook that PayPal was hiring for advertising operations roles, and to let her know if you're interested. And of course, I was like, I'm interested. So I hit her up. Again, I let her know. I was like, listen, I'm really interested in this position. I can give you my resume. Like, let me know what you need from me, because I would love if you could refer me. And we ended up having a phone call. She told me all about the company, told me about what she's enjoyed doing there. And she referred me, and she said to me, I will never forget. She goes, listen, I can get you the referral to get you in the door and get you an interview, but I can't do anything past that. And I said, and that is all I need. I'm like, just give me that, and I will take it from there. And I did, and I interviewed, and I got the role. And then, no joke, and I'm telling everyone here, I did not finish my MBA. I ended up leaving the job entirely, dropping out of my MBA program, doubled my salary just by making that transition into a different industry, right? And then from there, I started attending a ton of networking events in the area, for specifically people in tech. So a lot of like VC tech events, education tech, which I was always interested in. I started learning about diversity, equity, and inclusion in tech, and how there was such a lack of diversity. And so I just became very involved in organizations that were providing more diversity and inclusion in tech, and just growing my network. And it's funny because I never looked at it, Diantha, as like networking, right? And I think that's what people need to remember, is like, because a lot of my clients hate networking because of that. It just has a negative connotation. It's just like, I'm using people for something, right? And it feels very transactional.
Yeah.
And I'm of the firm belief, I don't believe in looking at networking like that. I like to look at it as building relationships, because really that's all you're doing. Is you're trying to build relationships, build rapport with people, learn about people, let them learn about you, have like a positive relationship, so that they like you, so that in the future when something opens up and they know, oh, Cristina has an advertising background, maybe she'd be interested in this, and I think she's awesome, right? Like, and that's what we want, right? We want people to think of us when opportunities arise. We want people to reach out to us because they like our character, and they're like, hey, I would actually like to work with her because she's cool, right? and that's what people forget, is like, when people are hiring you and they're interviewing you, yes, partially, yes, they're trying to assess your skills and your competencies, definitely, right? But on the other hand, they're also assessing your personality. They want to know, is this somebody I could work with? Is this somebody I would get along with for 8 hours a day?
Yeah. I mean, that makes such a big difference. People don't want to
Yeah,
hire individuals where they're like, ugh, I don't really like your personality.
exactly. So first impressions matter so much as well in networking. So I help my clients think of like the intentionality of having these conversations, right? There should be an intention behind why you're reaching out, not just, hey, can you look at my resume and can you give me this job? Because that doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how a lot of people sometimes think about networking, is like they're asking for something. That just feels icky, right?
Yeah. It feels very performative. It feels very like, I have to be this certain person. I have to show up in this way to get them to like me. But I'm also a believer that not everyone's going to like you,
Well,
right? And
yeah, I mean, you can't please everybody, right? That's just a
yeah,
fact.
exactly. And so the people that don't like you, you don't really want to build a relationship with those people. You want to look for the people that do. right? And then those are the people that you nurture, those relationships, that you keep in constant contact, that you check in on, that you tag on something on LinkedIn that looks interesting or repost their thing, right? Like there's so many different ways to engage people and network. And it's not just sending a LinkedIn message and saying, hey, like, can we have a phone call, right? There's so many other little things you could be doing to add value to other people.
Okay. Okay. But at the same time, there is like a moment where you do need to make the ask, right? Like when it came to PayPal,
sure.
you still made the ask, but you're saying it's important to build the relationship first.
Yeah. And my thing is like, you always want to have an ask. And that's actually one of the things I train my clients on, especially on outreach messages, because there's so many messages people send that's just kind of like, hey,
Oh,
can you check out my resume? Thanks. Right. And it's like there's no call to action. There's no sense of, I wouldn't say sense of urgency, but a sense of like this person doesn't need to respond. Right. But
right.
what I recommend for my clients is to actually have talk a little bit about them, whatever it is that you found out about this person, right? You want to do a little research, you want to learn a little bit, especially if it's someone you don't know, right? Immediately in your network. And then you always want to have at the bottom, you always want to have a call to action, a clear call to action. Like, do you have 20 minutes to connect over Zoom in the next week or two? Right? Something just
Perfect.
very specific so that you're not leaving any room for interpretation or assumption or someone can just not respond and it's totally fine, right? So yes, I agree. You do need to have a clear call to action, but never start with that.
Right. Okay, so you actually bring up an interesting point. So when it comes to networking, there's people who are already in your network, but let's say you want to work at a company and you don't have any connections there. So if you do this cold outreach and then you do set up this 20-minute Zoom call, what do you talk about with that person?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question because it depends on who it is that you reached out to, right? So I recommend to clients sometimes to reach out to recruiters directly, right? That could be a great way in. Also, not guaranteed they're going to see your LinkedIn message, and just putting it out there for everyone. Just, I was a recruiter, so I know, just because we are bombarded with messages from emails, applications coming in, yes, we have LinkedIn messages, but we're getting messages, from so many different places. So a lot of times if a recruiter doesn't respond, it's generally has nothing to do with you. It's usually because they're just so overwhelmed that they didn't have time to see it, right?
Right.
So I always tell people, obviously reach out to a recruiter, but if you do reach out to a recruiter, be very specific. Like make sure you share with the recruiter exactly which role you're interested in so they don't have to go like look it up or anything. Like you want to make it as easy as possible. So you want to share, hi, a little bit about yourself, right? You want to share some of your strengths that hopefully directly relate to the job description that you're referring to. You want to make sure, I would recommend even like looking at the job description, seeing, what keywords are showing up a lot and making sure you include that in your message.
Wait, what if there is no job description? What if it's one of the 70% of like,
Oh
the
yeah. Okay. So if it is one of the 70%, then you're reaching out to a recruiter as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you
Okay.
do in
So
that scenario?
yeah. So for that case, then you just want to also make sure that you know what recruiting team this person is on, right? Because that can be a little bit challenging, especially for like large organizations like Google. So what I would recommend to reach out to a recruiter if you kind of just are interested in their company in the first place, you don't know if they have a role. What I recommend, again, you still want to highlight your strengths though. So you want to make sure you let them know, hi, my name's Cristina. I have, 5+ years of digital marketing background and experience. I really love whatever organization because of their mission and, maybe state the mission. And then under that, you want to include your resume for sure. You want to have your resume there in that message. And then I would even say that call to action as well. Like, do you have, 15, 20 minutes in the next couple of weeks for a quick phone call? Or what would be most convenient for you, right? And really just make sure that you're having an ask at the end. But for recruiters specifically, do not send vague messages, okay? Because they don't have time for that. Be
Especially at companies
specific,
like Google.
especially at large companies like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, right? Like you really need to be, and I would even put in the subject line, like digital marketing professional, 5+ years or something very specific so they know what is this message about, right? Like I'm not going to just open a random no subject line message. It's just not going to happen, right? So you have to think strategically. That's what I would recommend for that.
No subject line, that definitely feels like spam. It's like
It feels
delete
super
automatically,
spammy.
do not open.
You'd be surprised how many people do that though.
I mean, I'm sure it's a fair number. Okay, so that has to do with like online networking.
Yeah.
What about in-person networking? So you said you went to a bunch of networking events, and
It's
I'm
my
sure.
favorite.
Okay.
I love networking in person. I don't know about, I mean, for my fellow extroverts out there, networking in person is our jam. Just because I like energy. I feel energy. I get energy from being around people. I love meeting new people and connecting on a variety of different things. And so what I recommend, so I would say the LinkedIn messages, all of that online is perfect for the introverts out there.
Sure.
For the introverts who are like, I don't want to meet people in public, like that's perfect for you. You can meet people one-on-one, over the phone, over Zoom. But introverts out there listening, like you need to put yourself out there. I know as much as you want to be introverted, you don't want people to know about you and you don't want all these things, like that's not going to help you get a job. So just putting that out there. In terms of in-person networking, so what I always recommend for people is to go to a networking event alone. First of all, don't go with your friend, don't go with your girlfriend, don't go with, people that you know. The reason I say that is when you go alone, you are forced to meet other people.
Mhm.
Right? If you go with friends or, whatever, you're going to hang out with your friend. You're going to like not really be open to meeting other people. You might meet like a person here or there, but you're going to be mainly with your friend. And the whole point is to be meeting new people, right? Like that's the whole point of the networking event. So what I recommend to people, especially people who don't feel comfortable going up to people they don't know or just feel really awkward in these spaces, I tell them to look for the person who's maybe feeling awkward like them, like someone, and you can find that person. They see the person who's
Look for
maybe
the
kind of standing
awkwardness.
there, yeah, like maybe standing there, like, or maybe you've done your homework ahead of time and you know who's going to be there and you know who you want to meet. That's actually the best approach, is to know, okay, there's 5 people here that are going to be there tomorrow because I looked at the roster or I looked at the attendee list before, and I want to meet someone from here. I want to meet someone from here, from here, from here. So that's usually the best approach, is to already come prepared with who it is that you want to meet, right? And if you do know who it is that you want to meet, maybe doing a little research before you get there, knowing a little bit something about them. And then when they're there, going up to them and just saying, hey, like, I've really been wanting to meet you. I love the work that you're doing with X, Y, and Z, right? Or, hey, I saw that you work at blah. This is a company that I've been following for a while. I really love the product. Would love to, kind of just get to know about your experience there, right? And really make it an open-ended question. You want to make sure that you're asking this person a question about them, about what their experience was like, or what they enjoy, or what they've been working on. Don't make it about you. Never approach someone at a networking event and talk about yourself. You want to
Look at me, I'm amazing.
exactly. Like, no one likes that person, first of all.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't open up room for an engaging conversation, right? You're not calling someone in when you're just talking about yourself. You want to make sure that the person feels comfortable, that they also feel heard, right? And at the end of the day, that's what gets people to like you, when you hear them. When you actually show curiosity and listen.
People love talking about themselves.
Oh, people love talking about themselves. Like, you can even something as simple as like, let's see, Diantha, let's say I met you at an event and I said, Diantha, like, I absolutely love your glasses. Like, those are cute. Tell me, like, where'd you get them? Because I'm thinking about getting some glasses. And then that just really opens up a conversation. Then you start talking about your glasses. And then eventually we'll get to the professional part or whatever. Like, what do you do for work or whatever? But first, it's that, breaking that kind of ceiling, and I guess not ceiling, the awkwardness, right? Is like, we're both
breaking
people.
the ice.
Breaking the ice. Thank you. That's the word.
Yeah.
Breaking the ice, right? Like, we don't have to be just transactional. We can actually be genuinely curious about each other, and then everything else will come up naturally, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you have an interest in what the person is actually doing professionally. I mean,
Exactly.
excited about that. They can get excited about that, but it can be hard.
Yes.
I mean, especially I feel like the pandemic made it like I think it made a lot of people more socially awkward because we were like, oh, we're so used to screens and now people in person.
Yeah.
So are there any tips or tricks you have for like what helps to break the ice? Or
Yeah.
what might make it a little easier to approach somebody? I mean, aside from preparing beforehand.
Um,
Or do you have any good like one-liners for like icebreakers? Of like,
yeah.
hey, how about those
I
nuts? Or
yeah, I mean, yeah, you can always go to the weather. I mean, the weather is always the easiest icebreaker, right? Like, oh, did you see that storm last night or whatever? But I would say the number one thing just is to feel confident, right? And confidence is something that's built. And a lot of people think, oh, that person's real confident, like they must have always been like that. And the reality is that's not true, right? Confidence is something that it comes with practice. That's what confidence is. It's practice. It's trying and 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 trying over and over and over and over until you feel comfortable with
yeah.
something. And now you feel like, okay, I'm good at this because I've done this so many times. I'm confident now, right? So if you don't network a lot, if you don't put yourself out there a lot, you're not going to feel confident. And that's natural. So I'm just here to let everyone know who's like, I'm super awkward at networking. I don't know what to do. That's why I don't go. Like, that's natural to feel like that. Like that's normal to feel like, hey, this is not my comfort zone, right? But I'm also here to say that absolutely nothing grows in your comfort zone.
Right. Right.
Meaning you will not get new opportunities. You will not meet, you will not think of new ways of thinking. You will not be open to, different projects or really amazing mentors or whatever that may come from networking is not going to happen for you if you don't put yourself out there. So
Yeah.
what I tell people is, number one, fake it till you make it. Fake it. Fake being confident. I do it all the time. Like literally, I've had so many different jobs. And I wasn't confident when I went into some of these jobs. Like some of these jobs, I was like, I've never done something quite like this before, but you know what? I'm going to try, and I'm going to come in every day and try different things. And if I fail, that's okay. I'm going to try it again. Right. And then we try and try and try until it comes more naturally. And then you can also do it in your style now. Right. Because not everyone's style is going to be the same. I'm very extroverted. So I'm okay with going up to someone, who's like the speaker in the room that everyone wants to talk to. I'm fine going up with that person and being like, what's up? Right. Like, I want to get to know you. Like, I love what you said on the stage, whatever. But if you're not, like I said, maybe start with the person in the corner, the person who looks kind of uncomfortable too, and just go up to them and be like, hey, are you just as uncomfortable as I am? I hate these kind of events. And I guarantee if you say that, that person will laugh, just like Diantha said. And they'll be like, oh my God, I found someone who feels awkward like me. And then you guys can start a conversation from that. Right. And so start that way. Like start first with the people who maybe resonate with you, who you feel like, okay, that I feel comfortable with that person. And then slowly go to more networking events and start putting yourself in uncomfortable spaces and start talking to the other people in the room. And slowly it will start building your confidence. And I know people are probably like, yeah, it's easy for her to say, right? But I have seen this happen with clients. I have seen this happen at events that I've thrown on where people I know are very shy. And I urge them to like really put themselves out there. And I've seen it work. And I've seen them kind of blossom and really be like, okay, I feel comfortable now speaking in front of a room, right? Or I feel comfortable now, when I'm in my meetings and I'm giving a presentation in front of my colleagues, right? And it's like, I love to see that growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say that I'm kind of like an extroverted introvert, but I find when I go to like networking events, I mean, like you said, planning definitely helps.
Yeah.
But also like going further with the planning, like I plan what I'm going to wear to make sure that that's comfortable. So at least I don't have to worry about that piece.
Yeah.
I also plan like, okay, so if I need a break, where can I go? What can I do? Or what happens if I get backed into a corner by an extrovert and I need to get away? So like making phone calls, like taking breaks outside,
Yeah.
things like that I've found really useful to help with like keeping me going and not wanting to just run away and be like, too much peopling.
Yeah. No, it's
But
true. It's true.
it does, I think, make it easier when you think about, okay, what's going to make it tolerable for any introverts out there, or even people who are just
Yeah.
feeling more socially awkward.
Yeah.
I also like having a firm stop, like of like, okay, I'm gonna be done here at 5:30, then I'm leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think like, especially for people who do, get that social anxiety, like uh, I think taking breaks is really smart. Maybe giving yourself a limit. I'm only going to stay there for an hour so that like you have something, that limit. You're not like, I'm not here indefinitely. Like this is temporary, right?
Also prep like a
Um,
list of questions I can use to like do icebreakers.
that too, that too. But honestly, I really urge people, start with maybe something that the person's wearing or something the person's doing and comment on that because that's something that it sounds weird saying it now because we're here on the screen, but when
No,
you're in
I mean,
person it really
everybody likes
works.
to
Like,
be told like, hey, you look good in that thing, or I like your
yeah,
shoes, right?
I've started some great conversations with people just being like, your shoes are amazing, where did you get them, right? And then we end up having a whole conversation for like an hour, right? So it really, people go to these events because they want to meet people, right? That's the whole point of the networking event. So if you're going there, and you don't talk to anybody and you're sitting in the corner, like you really wasted your time because it's like, why were you there if you didn't meet at least one person, right? At least one new person. And maybe start with that. Like, I'm going to meet one new person. And the next time I'm going to meet two new people, right? And then each time maybe give yourself a little bit more as you feel more comfortable.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are different like size networking events. Where do you particularly find like events that you go and network at?
Oh my gosh, that really, really depends on what your interests are. I definitely find tons of events on Eventbrite. So whatever, like if you're looking for tech events, like go on Eventbrite and type in like networking tech or something, and things will pop up. I also love looking at events on meetups. Meetups has great
This
events.
is fun.
Yeah, those are great as well. On LinkedIn, people are always posting events. If you're part of like, I always urge people to join communities on LinkedIn. Like, let's say, for example, you're in data analytics, right? Like that's your thing. You like data analytics. You should join data analytics groups on LinkedIn. And in those groups, they post a lot of times events, right? They'll post virtual, they'll post in-person events. Just really being engaged in online spaces like that. They're always posting and sharing different types of events. I would also say, not like organizations, like I work a lot with like DEI, right? So a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion organizations I'm a part of, memberships, like I'm an Alpha, which is the Association for Latino Professionals of America. So like I'm an
Okay.
Alpha, I'm in Tequeria, I'm in a lot of different groups that do like diversity in tech, and they're always hosting events as well. So just really putting yourself out there. You have to join these groups, join these online communities, and you'll always be getting invites to things.
And I know we're almost at time, but
Yeah.
one more question. How do you keep up with your network? Because there's so many different platforms these days, and I know LinkedIn can sometimes be overwhelming if you have, I mean, a lot of people have more than 500 followers. So what kinds of things do you do to help make sure that you keep up with the right people?
Ooh, with the right people. Well, I would say, well, first and foremost, again, networking is relationship building,
Right.
right? And so essentially, you don't want it to just feel transactional, like, oh,
Right.
I'm just reaching out for you to give me a job, right? You want it to be like, I'm actually admire your work, or I really would love to be part of your team, or, different things. You don't want to just make it transactional. So what I would say in the best way to like stay in touch with your network, um check in on them, check in on, hey, like happy holidays, right? Like maybe have a list of people in your network that you want to remain in your network and just send them like a once a year like holiday card or an email like, happy holidays, was thinking about you, how have you been. Again, you have to be intentional about it because you can't keep in touch with everyone. Like that's just the reality. Like
Possible.
we can't, right? It's just not possible. It's too many people. But there are certain people that should be in that ring of connection. Maybe you have 20 or 30 people that are really important to you, and you want to nurture those relationships. So
People.
you want to, yeah, you want to reach out to those types of people. And then the other thing, I know we're at time. The other thing I just want to say for anyone who's been experiencing the layoffs lately or anything, the economic crisis we're going through right now, so many people losing their jobs. I always urge people to start with your network first. Utilize your network first. That's why we have them, right? So I even tell people, hey, think of the 20 to 30 people that you feel closest to, whether that's your family, friends, colleagues, alumni, like that, people in your soccer club, whatever, right? Like, think of the people that know you the most, the 20 to 30 people, and literally craft a message to them and say, hey, how are you all doing? I hope you are well. I want to just let you know that I recently lost my job due to blah, 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 whatever you want to say, and share, like, I'm looking for this type of opportunity. If you know anything or know anyone who may be hiring, please send them my way, right? And maybe even have your resume in there, because you never know, right? You never know. Maybe no one in that email will have a job, but maybe they're like, hey, I know so-and-so's hiring for that kind of job. Let me give you their email, right?
Yeah, they might have somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah, so start there first, right? So many job seekers start just going on LinkedIn and I need to do my resume and go on LinkedIn. And I'm like, start with your community first. That's why you have it.
Yeah. And I think you had some suggestions for messages, which, I mean, we can share that in
I would love, I know we're over time. Yeah, so what I can do is I do have a worksheet that I want to share with everyone. And the worksheet has some templates in it for crafting an effective outreach message. Just because, a lot of people, they're like, no one responded to me, or like, I wrote this message and and I got ghosted or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah. And then I'm like, well, let me see the message. And I see it. And it's just like, hey, I want to work at your company. Here's my resume. And I'm like, I wouldn't respond to that. Like, that would be an archived, deleted message, to be honest, and I'm like, no. You need to be more specific. You need to show that you've done a little research, that you're not just copying and pasting a template to, everybody. Should I put it in the chat here? I don't know where.
Oh, no, it's okay. We can share it, or I'll share it in the Facebook group.
Oh, okay, perfect. But yeah, so it's going to have a few examples of messages, actually messages that I've sent before that have worked and gotten me jobs, and have gotten me speaking engagements, have gotten me, side projects, have gotten me clients, right? Like, it's not just a job, right? It could be mentorship. It could be you reach out to someone and they end up being your mentor, or you reach out to someone and they end up, referring you to somebody else, right? Like, you just don't know unless you do it, right? So so the worksheet's going to have just what you should have on your LinkedIn as well. It's going to have a checklist of like what to have on your LinkedIn.
Yeah, I love checklists.
If you are reaching out on LinkedIn, then your LinkedIn should be popping, because no one's going to respond if there's nothing on your LinkedIn. So that's first and foremost. And then once you have that, set up, it has a few messages and templates in there that you can use, which again, I don't recommend that you copy and paste. It's more for you to kind of get a sense of the types of messages that work.
Right. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'll be sharing Cristina's coach bio or link to her coach page in the comment section of this video. And I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and go and book a session with Cristina if you guys want some more guidance with regards to networking. She definitely
please. I want to teach. It really is the key. Like, so many people have asked me, how did you go from customer success to digital marketing manager to head of learning and development to recruiting? And I will say right now, and I'm telling you, I've pivoted so many times in just different roles that I've had, and it really has come down to networking and people knowing my work ethic, people know the other work that I've done, and them referring me, right? So it really is the key.
It's all about who you know, right?
It's all about who you know in the world.
Saying is a saying for a reason.
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see some of you soon on Zoom or in real life. Who knows?
All right, well, have a great one.
Thanks.
And everybody have a great rest of your week.
Thanks. Bye, Diantha.
Bye.